So today we are going to talk about collaboration and innovation amongst joining civil society organizations and companies. So, Baruch, I'll start with you. Ambev has expanded its positive impact through partnerships from agriculture to water using innovation. How has collaboration become a pillar of sustainability strategy of Ambev?
Good. I love to answer this type of question because connects what we believe is one of our strengths. That's to bring people together, and without that mindset, we cannot really be where we want to be in a couple of years, like for the future. We realized a couple of years ago when we made our commitments, our sustainability commitments, that they were really big and maybe bigger than us. And to be there, we would need to cooperate with others because all of our challenge and commitments, formal public commitments, at that point of the time, we didn't know how to do it. And when we realized we would need other companies to partner with us to be there, when we talk about, for example, having a positive impact in the watersheds where we are located in that has stress, hydrical stress, we cannot do by ourselves because there are multiple agents in that location, like multiple cities, municipalities, other companies, landowners, and governments and other interests that we cannot do by ourselves. We need them to cooperate with us and to understand and to really commit to go deeper. In other way, we cannot really have a positive impact on the full watershed because we haven't committed to just go there and improve our water consumption. We did, by the way, but that was not our commitment. Our commitment was to have a positive impact in the full basin, the watershed. And then how to do that by ourselves. And that's the magic. Bringing partners like TNC and suppliers like Ball and other companies and public affairs, governments together with us and showing the purpose makes this dream feasible. That's one of the examples how we need them to deliver. The same for others. Like for example, if we want to decarbonize our process and reduce our carbon emission by intensity by 25% by the end of this year, we cannot do that without touching the scope 3. Then we need Ball to also decarbonize their scope 1 and 2 because if they don't do it, we won't achieve our target. And then this collaboration has to be fostered, has to be nurtured, and it's not something that you just go there and ask others to do. You have to bring them together and to show the purpose and to have platforms to build on together and to go there together. And that's the value of delivering things. First is because we need them, and second because if we have them, maybe we can do faster, bigger, and more impactful. And that's the way that we think on the partnership to deliver tangible and feasible results.
Great. I think it's great what you're saying because I think sometimes people think that when we talk about collaboration is like a fluffy thing. It's like just being nice, but when we're working with complex issues with like long value chains, it's kind of the only way around to deal with it, right? And also like it's a way to reducing risks, like sharing the expertise. So it's great that you brought that to the table, and I'll go with Ramon to explore more of that. So Bao is a key partner of Ambev decarbonization journey through the Eclipse program, and also the 100+ labs in which we work all together. And how has this partnership between client and supplier evolved? And I mean, how is this important for the industry itself?
Yeah, so Ball is in the middle between like brewers, like Ambev, and then our suppliers of coils. So we are a converter, and that makes collaboration even more key. It's a must because we are sandwiched in that middle. So we need to really help the conversation because a lot of the scope 3 from our customers would be our scope 3 as well. And we've really worked very from the beginning. It was more around launching different type of products, so like 5 years ago, I think it's more, like actually 5 years ago, we launched the first ELYSIS aluminum low carbon with Ambev in North America. And we've done this sort of, it was more like ad hoc at the beginning, and now it's super strategic. Now we really share our joint plans. We have to have a 55% carbon reduction, so we have a climate transition plan with a 2030 55% reduction, because Ambev wants us to be very ambitious. So regardless that other customers may not be ambitious, Ball needs to be at that level. So that is, and then we review, and then we go in the detail to all the levers. And then of course Eclipse has been, and the 100 Plus, you know, we've supported Ambev in all the jurisdictions, global, in the South America, in Europe as well. And I think this is the collaboration we need to scale, and then there might be solutions that can be on the carbon side, on the water side, on the circularity side, that benefit all.
Great. You're saying like the ambition of Ambev like has helped to raise the bar maybe of the industry, and I think it's great to bring that, because I still feel like it's at the beginning of the journey. Like it's not common sense still, so I really feel like what you guys and we've been doing, it's on the front, like showing the others that it's possible and helping to raise the bar like in a more broader way. So Marcel, let's go for you. TNC and Ambev have a long-standing partnership through Waters and Forests program, working with nature-based solutions to protect and restore watersheds. What lessons demonstrate the potential for collaboration between the private sector and civil society for lasting environmental outcomes?
Well, thanks for the question. And there are a number of factors that drive success on that. And I would start by saying that we must have a clear long-term goal. So it shouldn't be local interventions like the private sector. I want to restore these 100 hectares and that's it. Must be a much broader shared benefit that is put on the table right on the first day. So we know why we're together, where we're heading to, because as you said, it's a journey, it's not a punctual intervention, which is what required for system change. That is something I've been repeating over and over. We cannot afford as a society to have isolated interventions that don't deliver a change in the way we do business, a change in the way we relate to each other. So that's a first key space to be at with private sector and civil society, a clear pathway forward. There's also the potential for the private sector to bring and leverage its relations. And this case here, I think it's very emblematic, where Ambev has brought Ball to the table. So we have not only one company, but we have the supply chain organizations that are part of the same issue, part of the same opportunity and challenge to work together. So private sector can leverage a lot of knowledge, a lot of relationships, a lot of capital to bring together to the table. So I think that's some of the key elements for a successful relationship among social society and companies. But also, often civil society play a role of throwing rocks, of finger pointing what is not right. I think that's necessary. We need loud groups to say what's not working. But there's a space of collaboration that is just as important and strategic, where civil society is fast enough and is risk acceptable enough to try different things, to innovate, to bring new ideas to the table, where the private sector feel it's a little bit too risky. So civil society can bring a lot to the table as well that can add value to finding solutions to the issues we're facing today with climate change.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're in a kind of like an important moment of mindset shift. When you say about systems change, I think it relates a lot to mindset. And I think maybe some of or all of us has been trained like it's safer to do by yourself, like it's better if you do alone. But I think like we've tried this way and since not like taking to the goals that we want to reach. And when we talk about waste management, I think it's, for me, it's, and water as well, like, of course, you can't solve the problem by yourself. Like, it's too complex. So, and an important thing that you said is on having a shared goal. Nobody said, like, hey, let's collaborate, like, doing what? So having these common goals, I think it's a key thing. And this leads to the question I want to make, to ask for you, Baruch, which is, what are the key learnings that you have had with the 100 Plus Labs program? Like, what are the key factors for making that success?
Good. Then we talked about the two initiatives here that I think it's before going to 100 Plus Accelerator, just to elaborate more for eventually for someone that doesn't know very deeply. First is the Eclipse. That's a program that we launched a couple of years ago globally to bring our suppliers along with us in the journey of decarbonization, helping them to understand and to learn best practices on the other sectors or even in their sectors, as well to share best practices that we identify as like cutting edge in their markets to influence other of our suppliers, and as well to standardize the way that we measure carbon and to have like a commitment and a master plan of decarbonization aligned above among the companies and between the two companies, us and the suppliers individually, to have a plan and to see how is going to be the impact in my scope 3. And that's what Marcio mentioned. I think our big responsibility that we identify in this is one of our big responsibilities in the sector, is to bring these big companies together, to organize them, to make them to go faster, more effective, without spinning the wheels, without spending time on things that doesn't make the sense, in the sense or that someone already tested and failed, and to focus on things that eventually we know that can be more impactful. That's our role of orchestrating this ecosystem. The second thing that we mentioned here, it was the watershed programs that we have with TNC that connects very well with the partnership as well. Why? We realized, and then I'm going to go to 100 Plus because shortly, because we realized during the watershed program, that's a very successful program that we started 15 years ago, where we identified that we should go and to be more impactful on the full watershed, not only in our water consumption itself, but we should have a positive impact on that watershed where we have communities in, and they are in stress areas. And then we decided that on that 11 locations that we mapped in a couple of years ago, we would establish a much broader and more comprehensive program. But then we realized that we couldn't make it because we didn't have all the knowledge, all the impact, and all the instruments to do it. And then we identified such a good companies like NGOs like TNC that can understand some nuances of the system, the agroflorestal system, even the political system that we cannot do. Because we have other focus, other knowledge, other objectives, other subjects that we are focusing on. But then we aligned that we knew where we want to be together. What's our impact that we want to provide? And then TNC helped us to orchestrate all these other agents that eventually are other companies, municipalities, research institutes, to identify what are the actions that we have to take on that watershed to recover that watershed. And then Marcio can talk a little bit more later what they do exactly, because it has been very successful. We are already positive in 10 out of the 11 watersheds that we decided, and by the end of this year we're going to go and cover the last one. But that's a proof that together we can do much faster and much broader. And this comes with our third big pillar of partnership. That's the 100 Plus that comes to complement things that we don't know how to solve, problems that we don't know how to solve. On the Eclipse or the watershed, we knew exactly where we are going to be or we want to be, and we knew what we have to do, but we didn't know how to do it. And there are other type of problems that we don't know how to solve it. And then comes this mindset of innovators that Quintessa can bring to us to identify startups, small companies that eventually can solve problems that we don't know how to solve. And it's super good to have partners like Ball that also bet on that and come with us to try to solve their problems as well. And then in the 100 plus, we try to identify these companies that can bring innovation, even in small scale, and we use this grit and this really result-driven mindset of Ambev to pilot, to scale, to make them successful, as well with some partners that are investing on that to make these solutions scalable. And that's where we see a lot of benefits, a lot of companies that we identified a couple of years ago, and Quintessa has a broad story on accelerating and making small startup successful companies. And that's the beauty of the program for us, is to help us to solve problems that we don't know how to solve, and then it's going to complement actions that we already know and we are already mapping for the future.
Great. Great to give the tangible examples of what we were talking about. And we just said about mindset. And I think that's a phrase you've been saying, like you already said twice, that we didn't know how to solve it. And I think that's an important cultural aspect to give attention to, because again, it's like we've been taught, like, I know everything, I'm a superhero, like pretending that we know everything. And I think it's a new kind of sector stage, in which we learned that assuming that we don't know make us like more prepared to solve it. So I think it's a good highlight to make on your and what you shared. And Marcio, I want to go for you, because on the same that we talk about key learnings, right? And you said about the collaboration on private sector and civil society organizations, and how we can see the organizations and the role of civil society, not only like pointing out, but also like giving the expertise to solve. So what do you think it's the key learnings on how to make this relationship work between two actors that we know they're different, they come with different, I don't know, cultural aspects as well?
I think maybe to help illustrate that, I'll say a little bit of what we do on the ground, right? And then we will lead us on some success factors of that type of approach. So we work not on a plant that use water, but we see the whole watershed needs. For instance, São Paulo has one of the key water reservoirs, Complexo Cantareira. We use science to map key locations that, if restored, could increase the water capacity within the system. So we mapped 30,000 hectares of areas that are currently degraded that, if are restored, can increase by 30% the capacity of Reserva Cantareira of contained water, both in the rivers, in the reservoir, and in the soil. So that's science that provides data and direction of where action should take place. But it costs money, right, to restore 30,000 hectares. And Ambev alone, or any company alone, will hardly be able to deliver that amount of money. So we create financial instruments to leverage initial capital into a much larger pot of money. For instance, through water basin committees, which do exist in that location. So we have strengthened the local watershed committee to have them aware that nature-based solutions can provide a much cheaper solutions to the problem they're facing, which is access and availability of water. And a water basin committee has income from water users. So water users are now directing their money to watershed committee that direct for nature-based solutions that can increase the availability of water. So it's good investment, it's good for people, and it's good investment. Also, many municipalities that are part of the water basin committee are being supported to develop their own payment for environmental services program at the county, at the municipal level, where the county itself directs part of its budget for property owners that are willing to restore degraded areas, usually areas that are not being used for production, and that would be much better put if they produce water. And they're receiving money for that now through county payment for environmental services. And in order to do that, Ambev alone, again, cannot deliver all the money that is needed. And actually, there are many other users within the watershed, not only suppliers from Ambev, but also cities, people. So we are leveraging funds from multiple sources, and that's a key aspect in terms of innovation for success, which is to develop good methodologies for attribution. So Ambev has provided money that has had an impact much broader than if that money was, for instance, directed to plant trees in that location. And the same was done by other companies, by other entities. How can we develop a methodology that provides the right attribution for the collective effort? Because together we can do much more. But companies must be willing, and we're happy that Ambev is, to share the attribution with partners by building coalitions under the assessment that alone we cannot go really farther. I think another aspect that can really change the speed and provide benefits, it's when companies sees nature-based solutions as part of their business strategy. It's not something isolated, it's not philanthropy, it's not something for the sustainability sector to do. It's really part of the business solution. For instance, whenever a new infrastructure project or a new plant is designed, companies must go after capital. You have a capital structure, all money, a third. I will have a loan from development bank here, and I will loan from private investors over there, and this is my plan to invest in the new plant. I argue that perhaps 3-4% of the capital that is being raised should be already foreseen to nature-based solutions, to increase social license, to increase resilience of limited access to water or other type of resources. And as long as you cost that within the cost of the infrastructure or the plant itself, and you present that to investors, my guess is you will find money quicker and you will find money cheaper to deliver your business. And then the sustainability people won't have to go with their head empty asking for different parts of the company. Can you help me do this? It's good for business. No, put that right on the structuring of the capital that is needed to deliver the project you're leading within the company.
Mm-hmm. I love what you're saying, because the way we frame, the way we, the language that we use, how we see the thing changes the value and, I mean, the effect it has into the business. And the other day, I was having a conversation on changing, instead of talking about like sustainability, talking about natural resources infrastructure. Like, if we change it to a more like business way of saying it, like we have like building infrastructure and then you have like the natural infrastructure, like, would it be easier for people to understand that it's part of the business? And I mean, water, as we were saying, it's all about resilience and economic benefit for Ambev, as it is an important resource. So I totally agree with you. I think it's again, we were talking about mindset and like system change, and I think this is an important issue. That like leaving the subject isolated to supply, to sustainability, and also like leaving it on like not acting in advance, like waiting for the problem to happen, is the worst thing we have been doing. So I love the story because it's like a live example on how to prevent instead of waiting for the problem to happen. Ramon, I'd like to invite you to join. But I think it's perfect what Baruch and Marcia said, like giving the tangible examples. So if we could talk more like what's Ball doing in terms of low carbon strategies and working with innovation. And also we were talking outside on circular economy. So it would be great to learn more about what Ball is doing.
Yeah, so the first thing we do is to look at the intersection of policies and technologies. So in our climate transition plan, and we also look at water, we look at what are the technologies that would need to be taken to a scale across all our value chain. And then we look at the enablers. We read every single press release of all the technology providers across all the value chain. That means our suppliers, our sub-suppliers, the manufacturer of technologies for those suppliers and sub-suppliers. So we've mapped all that, and we have a very clear path to get there. Circularity is number one enabler. So we would be saving carbon, saving water, the more we increase recycled aluminum. So we really focus on that 85% recycled content, and we innovate, with both suppliers and customers around that. One of the big innovations is really about industry collaboration, and there is changing the alloys of the top of the can. We call it the end. This is one of the things the whole industry is working together. So it's collaboration, it's innovation across competitors. That's the standardization across competitors, especially in our suppliers, and then vertical innovation. So that is a critical part, circularity. On the policy side, we also collaborate a lot across industry because we need to increase collection. In Brazil, we are 98%, but in America, we're 45%. So now we're really looking at that. How are we going to go from 45 to 80 to 90 in the US? And there is a lot of opportunities with AI, sorting mixed with X-ray, with laser. So alloy sorting is going to be a big thing coming on. And that again requires vertical integration. These are some of the examples we're looking. And then the third, which is where we're going to be talking this afternoon in the industry, is recycling cans into cans. So the whole circularity and avoiding cans going to other sectors, which you then put other alloy elements like silicon, like zinc, that makes that alloy not come back. So there is a huge opportunity. And I think a key element of that is aluminum is such a magic material because sustainability, circularity goes hand in hand with making the aluminum more competitive. And we cannot do things that then add cost and cost and cost. We need to find a way as to look at a circular chain that makes aluminum more competitive. And I think that is where you are talking about integrating into the core of the company. Like this has to be really the commercial relationships around the circular value chain and creating new ideas and new circular chains and co-developing those. On the waterfront, as we are talking about what we are doing, we're in the different sort of point as what Ambev is doing, because it's a different legitimacy. So you putting water to make beer, people say, okay. Putting water to wash cans, less legitimate. So what we need to do is to use zero water or 1%. So we're looking at solutions to recirculate 100%. So this is the type of innovations where we've been looking. We've installed the first pilots to do that. Technology is more expensive, and we're looking at ways, especially in high-risk areas, where we can install these technologies. So it's slightly different, but we really need to be very aggressive in those areas of water scarcity or very strict water discharge limits.
Great. I want to make a question, the same for the three of you, which is, I imagine maybe like somebody's listening to us in a more like skeptical approach, like, okay, but these guys, they're engaged. I don't know, these guys, they have money. I have to make profit. Like, I can take the risk. So imagine you're talking to somebody that has these thoughts. how can we give more, I don't know, examples of results or examples of reasons, or how we measure success, or what we call risk, what we were calling resilience, so that we can like approach the language and show that it's not like only for rich and engaged company, but that it can be really a common sense.
Well, let me try to start here. I think we've realized that first, we are looking for solutions for real problems. And problems happen at every scale or every size and every moment. And sustainability issues are deeply connected to efficiency, to risk, and to resilience. I mean, doesn't matter where you are, what's your level in the scale, what we've learned during our programs is that being cautious about managing your resource in the most efficient way possible is gonna make you more sustainable and more competitive. Okay, that's what we've learned. For example, when we decided to go 100% covered by renewable electricity in 2017, we didn't know how to do it exactly, but we had like small letters inside of that where we say, and we won't pay more for that. We are gonna find ways to do it in the right cost level. And then we started to partner with others and to find the new solutions, eventually find new pilots, small things to test and to see how we would do it in a more efficient way. And today we are already 100% converted in Brazil, for example, and we pay much less than if you hadn't. And that's not so far, no. If we do this at our homes, in our house today, the technology has evolved in a way that you have a good payback and you can save a lot of money on electricity too. And we're bringing that level, for example, for our point of sales. Small point of sales, through some startup that we accelerated, Lemon, we are bringing to them an alternative to decarbonize their bars, small bars, more point of sales, adopting a sustainable solution, and by the way, reducing between 15-20% their cost of energy purchase. And then again, I think it's about like looking for the way to do that in a more efficient way, in the more sustainable way. Usually they go together hand in hand, and that's our practical examples of things that we did in our big scale, because we can, but through other partners that are not that big. But we are also seeing point of sales that are adopting and others that are not. And then we have to convince them that it's good for them to change their energy matrix from the grid to this new process, that they're going to save money and it's going to be good for the environmental. And then it's all about really communicating the purpose and doing the right thing. And again, we do believe that there's still, I say that the good thing of having that amount of possibilities in sustainability today, because we are not where we should be, is that you can select the ones that are in that sweet spot where we can find sustainable solutions that deliver decarbonization, water consumption, or whatever, and save money. And then looking for that with that eyes, I think is gonna be for anyone. And that mindset again, it's key, vital for us. We really believe on that. And this is where like what Marcio told us, it makes a lot of sense. Instead of having us fighting for internally, give me that millions of dollars to save that watershed. No, let's understand where the public affairs is going to be beneficial as well, and bring the municipalities, the governments, and as well to avoid other spend from them in other places that are less efficient, and put more efficient way in nature solutions, basic nature solutions. That's going to be more effective, good for the world, and more effective financially for the municipality. and to show them, to convince them, and as well to bring the landowner and to bring eventually other companies and bring us and bring everyone. At the end, the investment is much lower, and that's the beauty of a program like watersheds and forests. That is more than replanting 2 million trees that we did, no, reforesting 2 million trees that we did already. Another day I was saying that someone told me that 2 million trees, if we put all that trees in line, it was exactly the distance between São Paulo and Belém. And then it was 2,000 kilometers away, and then something like that. And then I was surprised on how big it's the program already, but it's more than trees. Are native trees in the right place to drive more water for that area that is a high stress area, with the right partners and to have a positive impact on availability and quality. And that's, for me, it's a key. There are landowners that join us. They're not big, and they are now with inside the legislation, the regulation, because they are now using that area to preserve the area. They can understand other values of nature. They can start to have the mindset of nature solutions, nature-based solutions, and to have a much more connected way of working with the communities. They have better quality of water. And there are small landowners that some of them produce coffee, produce small things, and they are now with us doing the right thing on that watershed, and they are happy that this is helping them to save money as well. Not only us, but them.
Great. And you, what would you guys say to a skeptical person on, like, is this really for me? What should I do? What are the results on the table?
Even if you are a big company, you need to really deliver results. So it's not, you need to have a reason, a business case. So whatever technology comes, it needs to work. It needs to deliver that value, whether it is an actual value like water or carbon saving, but it needs to then scale, and at the scale, it would have to be equal or cheaper in the long term. And then, you need to think about the wider stakeholders. In order to scale that, you can find a company who would see that value. You can find a government who would help scale, or stakeholders in the chain. So, but you need to really have a clear business case, regardless of size.
Hello? I think somehow our narrative is not yet strong enough. Maybe we don't have that business case so well designed yet. Otherwise, we would be seeing, as of today, billions of dollars being directed to nature-based solutions for the industry overall. So I think we're still missing something. And I keep thinking that the carrot and the stick is always the best approach. And if you take that angle, I think we're still missing some part of the stick, where regulations can be stricter, where regulations can be requiring more, so one can use the argument, if you don't do it, you're going to get a fee. If you don't do it, you're going to go out of business because you won't have the license to operate. So I think that would strengthen a lot. But at the same time, again, is not enough. So we need to have the positive incentives, which is the business case we're talking about. So we need to have data, cumulative, at different sectors, that provides clear an answer that if you want to avoid risks, if you want to continue to operate in the long run, you better do it. And actually, if you do it, you access more consumer. You have a bigger share of the market. You have more suppliers willing to work with you because they will see it's a long-term business. It's not a short-term relationship. So I believe we need to combine the positive and negative incentives. And as of today, we're falling short. We are all falling short. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having to have a conference of parties. We wouldn't be having to have this conversation among ourselves right now. But still, I think there are amazing examples, some of them coming from this very own roundtable, that should be better documented and better disclosed for the overall society, pointing the benefits of doing what these people here are doing already, the financial benefits, the marketing benefits, the business operations benefits, the shared benefits with societies, with local communities. We need to be smarter, we must be more robust if we are really to change the system, which means if we are really to bring hundreds of actors instead of dozens.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've once had a conversation with a person from a big company, and we were talking about the long-term or short-term perspective and how it changes again. Because like you were saying, it pays back, but it really depends on how much time you have to wait for it, right? And like if you're planning to have like 100 years company or a 2 years company, like totally changes the way you plan it. And when we were talking like watershed and guaranteeing water for the next 15 years, makes sense because you plan to stay alive as a company for 15 years. You plan to stay in that place. So it's like it makes it more reasonable and almost like obvious to make that choice. And the thing you all said about the incentives and business case, and I think it's really important because this kind of like I'm gonna give you bonus and like for the executives like on a only like year basis and measuring risk in a year basis, then I think it's where we lose the understanding of what we were talking about like natural infrastructure, because it kind of relates on you having this broader vision. And I'll make maybe it's the final round. Let's see how it goes. But I wanted to go into that with you. Like, let's pretend you have the pen. Like, you're the ones like making the agreements here at COP. Like, which kind of things would you propose on? Can be regulation, can be incentives, I don't know, can be kind of agreements, new agreements that we don't have yet on a global perspective, that you think that would give us the base or the incentive, we can say, to make this, to foster this kind of partnership between companies and civil society, between companies in the same value chain, and to understand that like innovation is the way to go through our goals.
Okay. Well, my opinion is that what we are lacking the most, in my point of view, is the positive incentives that you mentioned. I think there's no clear path on the regulatory affairs to really go big and bold, to really move the needle. I think I see the private sector very active to find these good business plans. I really believe they're still there, and that's fine. We can still cut the high grass, but we're gonna go to, depending on your efficiency, your power of coalition, your eagerness to find it, your resilience to not give up during the process. And it's not easy, as Marcio said. We're definitely not there yet. If we were, we wouldn't be here for probably speaking right now. Then there are a few companies that can really sustain, keep doing the right thing despite what happens. I feel that if we can leave a conference like that with a more solid and robust plan to give rights incentives, positive incentives from the governance, I think the punishment also can happen and can help. However, I do believe that there's still a big space for positive incentives, debureaucratizing, and as well creating instruments, positive instruments of like financial tax incentives or whatever, to incentivize some sectors that need that collective boost to offset the average of everybody. I think this is going to be vital. In Brazil, we saw some examples of these spikes that really changed the country when you do it. Like we had that for wind and solar for a while. We had that for some electric vehicles for a while. We have to keep doing this positive incentives to move the average up and to really create awareness of the communities, of the people, of everybody, that there is a path, a good path to go, and then the communities are going to start and ask for the companies why they're not doing that, if there is a public incentive for that. And then for me, this creates a positive awareness. If you do something and advertise that, you create a bigger awareness and you start to accelerate these movements. This is what I expect from a conference like that.
I think it's about system design, policy based. So as policymakers, you need to look at the overall system and design the market in a way that you get the implicit incentive. If you give support, subsidies to individual solutions, you are betting on something. And I think you need to design that system so that maybe it's a nature-based solution, maybe it's a technology, and you let them compete, because it would be, maybe it's 40% one, 60% the other. It depends on what, then that is the equation that gets the lowest cost and the biggest value. I come from Europe. Europe has done a great job of system design based EPR, extended producer responsibility fees, for example. So each packaging would pay the proportional total cost of collection and recycling. So that really incentivizes redesign packaging, for example, and that goes across from the packaging design, from the supply chains, from what is the most optimized collection, and it's revolutionizing packaging in Europe. So they're now trying to do that, for the electricity system, but it comes always from thinking about what's going on in the market and what is the key thing that you intervene in the system for the lowest cost implementation, and then you let the market, as a regulator, you cannot choose the winners. You need to think about creating that market.
I have the benefit of going last on that question. I had time to think further. So if I had a magic wand, the first thing I would do is turn the AC stronger right here, right now. After that, I would work with regulators to improve regulation overall. For instance, I think water tariffs are key. I would want to demonstrate for the decision makers who design the water tariff use to understand that applying part of the water tariff that all of us pay should be directed to nature-based solutions. And that would pay back in a number of years. We would have more water, cleaner, and cheaper. So I would try to influence that type of water tariff, which is the incentive at large scale. I would also work for better pricing of the beers and sodas and water that we drink. Because currently the incentives for the industry are to make the best product at the lower potential cost, which means industries, with all respect, are not pricing the externalities of their business all across. And of course, Ambev cannot do that unilaterally. I will price the externalities in my soda because you will lose market. So it must come from regulation. We must have the clear rules of the game to price products of what they really cost, considering all externalities of their business. That would raise a little bit the cost of prices, but if this is done at sector level, it wouldn't be that much, and consumers will still consume while making sure they're paying the fair price for the impact of the business and the product they're buying. I would also work with board members because the CEOs are concerned with the quarter results. As you mentioned, they must deliver quick results, but the board members have the attribution to think long term. They have the attribution to think what the changes are coming in the market so they prepare the company. So I would take all major board members of the industry and take them to a very degraded area where they can see the creeks, the river that has been dry. I mean, there's no water anymore. So they can understand that for their business to thrive in the long run, they must do something in addition to request results of every quarter. That's their attribution, board members. Finally, and I think that relates a lot to what you do, Ana, I would try to direct more finance for the entrepreneurial sector to develop local solutions to help big companies solve their problems. I think there's a space for improved nurseries business like viveros. There's a space for many small solutions that are emerging, which require a better business environment, less regulation, more financial incentives, so we can have a much more active economic activity, not only from big players, but for the whole society that can benefit for more business, for more job opportunities, to offer solutions that we don't even know yet what they are because the entrepreneurial mind is just amazing. So we should foster the entrepreneurial space for more innovation, for more business, for more economic activity that can deliver positive impact on water availability. This is what I would do with my magic wand.
Wow.
First of all,
Love it.
I would increase the AC.
I love it. I think the water tariffs is something really important that we should think how we can organize ourselves, the sectors, and even like once we are here in CNI, the industry is going to be super, it's going to be key for the industry in the future to provide the right level of water if we incentivize the nature-based solutions to provide that future, better future. I think it's at the interest of all the industry. I think it's something for us to work on.
Sure. Really loved your suggestions. I would hope like we can leave them deliver them in a letter for the people that are negotiating behind us. And I mean, I'm sure you probably agree with it. There's no like one bulletproof solution. Like complex subject demand systemic solution, but also like multiple solutions at the same time. And I really agree with you when you all said about the regulation, because I think that nowadays, like the first to move, it demands some, let's say like courage or understanding or access to information to understand that there is a business case and that we are talking about being resilient in business. But then we have the fight on fake news and misinformation and things that people think that is only like for the engaged people and people that like trees. So I think it's really important on the regulation to change on what's normal and what's a choice and like kind of invert it. And on the incentives as well, like we have so many industries that they go almost against decarbonization, and there's a lot of subsidies in it. So it's like we talk about free market, but it's like how much is it? So how can we regulate so to give like a real basis on what is cost, what is return, what is time to be considered, and what is really like free competition for the solutions to raise. But I think meanwhile the subject goes on. I think it's great for us to build coalitions between the ones that already understand and see it. And I think you guys bring tangible and really great examples to see how this can be like a new way of doing business. So thank you very much for the conversation, and I hope we all have a good COP ahead.
Thank you all. It was a big pleasure to be here. Thank you for your partnership, DNC, Empresas, and Bolt. They are super important for us to keep this journey. Big pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks a lot. Likewise. It's a pleasure to work together.
Thank you.